Welcome to the deep dive. I'm really glad you sent us this stuff about coal.
Yeah.
Because, we talk a lot about energy
Right.
on this show.
Absolutely.
But we often think of coal as, dirty,
Yeah.
a pollutant.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, but it's so much more than that.
It is.
And today I'm excited to dig into this idea of coal as the first example of industrial scale energy storage.
Right.
Because by understanding coal's impact, I think we can really understand how energy has shaped our world.
I think that's a great place to start because when we talk about coal, what we're really talking about is stored solar energy.
Okay.
It's ancient plant matter that over millions of years has been compressed and transformed into this incredibly energy-dense material.
So it's like the sun's energy from millions of years ago packed into this rock.
Exactly.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it is pretty wild when you think about it. And get this, coal has been a part of human history for a very long time.
Really?
We have records of it being used as far back as 3490 BC in China. So that tells us that even in those early civilizations, people were already searching for ways to harness energy more efficiently.
So what was it about coal that made it so revolutionary?
Yeah.
What set it apart from, burning wood,
Right.
which people had been doing for centuries?
Well, it all boils down to energy density.
Okay.
Coal has a much higher energy density than wood, meaning you get a lot more energy from a smaller amount of fuel.
Okay.
To put it into perspective, imagine trying to power a factory with wood. You'd need an enormous amount of wood constantly being fed into the fire.
Right.
Coal, on the other hand, packs so much energy that you can transport and stockpile a significant amount of it.
Okay.
Relatively easily.
So you're saying that coal's energy density is what made it so portable
Yes.
and therefore so valuable.
Exactly. And, think about it.
Yeah.
Before coal, you were pretty much limited to using energy sources that were right there in front of you.
Right.
But with coal, suddenly you could move energy around.
Okay.
You could ship it across oceans, transport it by train.
Wow.
Even loaded onto donkeys if you had to.
Really?
This portability was a game changer. It fueled exploration, trade, the expansion of empires. It really reshapes the world.
I never thought about it like that, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Coal essentially unlocked this level of freedom
It did.
and power that people had never had before.
And that leads us right to the Industrial Revolution.
Okay.
Coal was the lifeblood of that entire era.
Yeah.
It's no coincidence that the Industrial Revolution took off just as we were figuring out how to harness the power of coal on a large scale.
So we know that coal was essential for the Industrial Revolution.
Right.
Can you walk us through that a bit more? I mean, it wasn't just shoveling coal into a furnace, right?
Right. There's this amazing story of innovation and this fascinating relationship between coal and the steam engine.
Okay.
Think back to 1712. Thomas Newcomen designs the first practical steam engine.
Mm-hmm.
And what was its primary purpose?
Yeah.
To pump water out of coal mines.
Oh, wow.
So right from the start.
Coal and the steam engine were intertwined.
So the more coal you could mine, the more powerful the steam engines become.
Exactly.
And the more powerful the steam engines become, the more coal you can mine.
Exactly.
So it's this positive feedback loop.
Exactly. Then, in the 1760s and 70s, James Watt comes along and makes some crucial improvements to the steam engine, increasing its efficiency by a whopping 75%.
Wow.
Suddenly, steam power became viable for all sorts of applications. It wasn't just about pumping water out of mines anymore.
Right.
Now you could use steam engines to power factories, mills,
Oh.
and eventually even locomotives.
So it's not just about the fuel itself, it's also the technology that can unlock its potential.
Exactly.
And with coal, that potential was huge.
It was.
It was about way more than just factories, though, right?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Think about transportation. Coal-powered steam locomotives revolutionized land travel.
Right.
And steamships did the same for sea travel. Suddenly, vast distances could be covered in a fraction of the time. It shrunk the world in a way that was never possible before.
So we're talking about a complete transformation of trade, exploration,
Likely.
even how people live their lives,
Right.
all because of this incredibly energy-dense,
Right.
portable fuel source.
Precisely. And there's another fascinating development that we shouldn't overlook.
What's that?
Using coke, which is a refined form of coal in the iron smelting process.
Okay.
This was another game changer.
Okay.
It allowed for the production of much larger quantities of iron,
Yeah.
which of course fueled further industrial growth.
So it sounds like coal was truly the backbone of the Industrial Revolution.
Absolutely.
From powering factories to revolutionizing transportation to providing the raw materials
Yeah.
for all this incredible growth.
And just when you think coal has reached its peak,
Yeah.
there's another incredible turning point.
Yeah.
The invention of the coal-fired power station in 1882. Now, coal's energy wasn't just used directly, it was being transformed into electricity.
Right. Electricity is a whole other ballgame.
It is.
It's so versatile
Absolutely.
and transportable.
Yes.
I mean, you can't exactly plug a factory into a pile of coal,
Right.
but you can wire it up to a power station miles away.
Exactly. And that's why, by 1961, coal was the dominant fuel for electricity generation in the U.S.
Wow.
Even today, globally, about a third of our electricity comes from coal-fired power stations.
It's amazing how coal went from, this simple fuel source to this fundamental driver of industry, transportation, even the way we light our homes. It's such a remarkable story of how, this simple, abundant resource combined with human ingenuity
Absolutely.
completely reshaped the world.
It did.
But of course, there's another side to the story.
Right.
One that we can't ignore.
There is.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we'll pick up in part 2. So we've explored coal's incredible rise, this powerful force that shaped industry and transportation. But as we hinted at the end of part 1,
Right.
there's another side to this story, a darker side that we need to confront.
You're exactly right. As we've discussed, coal's energy density and portability were revolutionary.
Right.
But those same qualities contribute to its negative consequences.
Okay, so the very things that made coal so powerful
Right.
are also the things that make it problematic.
Exactly. It's almost like a double-edged sword.
Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Of course, think about it. Burning large amounts of coal releases a whole host of pollutants into the air.
Right.
We're talking sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, particulate matter. All of these contribute to a range of environmental issues.
You're talking about, respiratory problems, acid rain, smog.
Absolutely.
These are some serious consequences.
Absolutely. And then there's the biggest challenge of all, climate change.
Yeah.
You see, when we burn coal, we release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and that carbon dioxide traps heat,
Right.
contributing to global warming.
Right. Coal is a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions,
Absolutely.
which are driving climate change.
Right.
So in a sense, coal helped us build the modern world.
Yes.
But now we're having to deal with the unintended consequences
Exactly.
of that progress.
That's a good way to put it. And that's why there's this global push to transition to cleaner energy sources.
Okay.
We need to break our dependence on fossil fuels like coal
Right.
and move towards a more sustainable future.
Okay. So the problem is clear,
Right?
but the solution seems massive.
It's a daunting task.
We're talking about transforming entire energy systems
It is.
that have been built up over centuries.
Right.
Where do we even begin?
It definitely is a daunting task, but it starts with recognizing the urgency of the problem and committing to finding solutions. And the good news is that there's been a lot of progress in developing renewable energy technologies.
Like what?
Solar power, wind power, hydropower, these are all much cleaner alternatives to coal.
Right. But renewable energy sources come with their own challenges, don't they?
I do.
I mean, what happens when the sun isn't shining?
Right.
Or the wind isn't blowing?
Exactly.
How do we ensure a consistent energy supply
Right.
from sources that are inherently intermittent?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And that's where energy storage comes in.
Okay.
Think of it this way. Coal provided us with a way to store energy on a massive scale.
Mm-hmm.
We could mine it, transport it, stockpile it,
Yeah.
and use it whenever we needed it.
Right.
Now we need to find ways to do the same thing with renewable energy.
Okay.
We need to develop ways to capture and store energy from the sun and wind so that it's available even when those sources aren't directly generating power.
So instead of relying on this constantly burning coal fire,
Right.
we need to figure out how to capture and store those bursts of energy
Exactly.
from the sun and the wind.
Exactly. It's like the next chapter in the story of energy storage.
Yeah.
Only this time it needs to be clean.
Yeah. So how do we do that?
Well, the good news is that there are some exciting developments in this area.
Like what?
Battery technology, for example, is advancing rapidly.
Okay.
We're now seeing larger scale batteries being deployed to store energy from solar and wind farms.
Okay. Batteries. I've heard a lot about those. What other promising energy storage solutions are out there?
Well, there's pumped hydro storage, which has actually been around for quite a while.
Yeah.
It's a simple concept. You use excess electricity to pump water uphill to a reservoir,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you need energy, you release the water downhill
Okay.
through turbines to generate electricity.
So it's like using gravity to store energy.
Exactly.
That's pretty clever.
It's a pretty neat solution, but are these technologies really ready to replace coal on a large scale? Can they provide the same level of reliability and energy density
Right.
that we've come to expect from coal?
Yeah, are we there yet?
That's the big question, and the answer is it's a work in progress.
Okay.
There are challenges to overcome, like scaling up production, reducing costs, and integrating these new storage solutions into our existing energy grids.
Right.
But the progress being made is encouraging.
Okay.
And there's a growing recognition that these technologies are essential for a cleaner energy future.
Okay, so it sounds like we're in the midst of a major energy transition,
We are.
moving away from fossil fuels like coal
Right.
toward these cleaner, more sustainable solutions.
Yes.
But what about all those existing coal-fired power plants?
Right.
What happens to them in this new energy landscape?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
In a fascinating twist, some of those old coal plants are being repurposed
For what?
for the very technologies that are replacing them.
But you're telling me that former coal plants are being used to support renewable energy? How does that even work? Wait, you're telling me that former coal plants are being used to support renewable energy?
I am in many parts of the world, including the UK, Germany, Australia, and the United States. Former coal plants are being transformed into battery energy storage systems.
Wow.
Essentially, these facilities are being re-engineered to house massive batteries that can store energy generated from renewable sources like solar and wind.
So instead of burning coal and releasing harmful emissions, these plants are now helping to clean up the energy grid. That's quite a transformation.
It is.
What's driving this shift?
Well, for one thing, it's a practical solution.
Okay.
These coal plants already have a lot of the infrastructure in place for connecting to the grid.
Right.
They have the transmission lines, the substations, the space.
Yeah.
It makes sense to repurpose these assets rather than starting from scratch.
So it's a smart way to leverage existing infrastructure.
Absolute.
Avoid unnecessary costs. That's impressive.
It is.
It also seems symbolic, almost poetic, wouldn't you say?
It is.
These relics of the fossil fuel era are now playing a role in ushering in a cleaner, more sustainable energy future.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It speaks to the adaptability of human ingenuity and our ability to learn and evolve as we confront new challenges.
It's certainly a powerful image.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into coal,
Right.
what are the key takeaways you'd like our listener to ponder?
Yeah.
We've explored coal's remarkable impact on history, its role as the first industrial-scale energy storage solution, and now its complicated legacy as we transition to a cleaner energy future.
We've covered a lot of ground. I think one of the biggest lessons is the importance of understanding how energy density and portability shaped our world.
Right.
Coal's success wasn't just about its energy content, it was about how easily it could be transported, stored, and utilized.
Yeah.
These factors were key to its role in fueling exploration, trade, and ultimately the Industrial Revolution. As we look to the future and the development of new energy solutions, we need to keep these factors in mind.
So it's not just about finding clean energy sources.
Right.
It's about making them practical and scalable. We need the renewable energy equivalent of those coal-filled ships and trains that powered the world for so long.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another important point, the crucial role of innovation.
Okay.
From Newcomen's first steam engine, to Watt's improvements, to the invention of the coal-fired power station, human ingenuity has been instrumental in unlocking coal's potential.
Yeah.
That same drive to innovate will be essential as we develop and refine new energy storage technologies. We need to invest in research and development, encourage creative problem solving, and foster a culture of continuous improvement.
So we need both scientific breakthroughs and logistical solutions. We need to find ways to make renewable energy storage not just clean, but also efficient, affordable, and adaptable to different needs and environments.
Absolutely.
It's a tall order,
It is.
but it seems like we're making progress.
We are, and let's not forget the crucial environmental lesson that Coal's story teaches us.
Yeah, what's that?
Coal's legacy reminds us that even the most transformative technologies can have unintended consequences as we develop new energy solutions. We need to prioritize sustainability, think holistically about the entire energy life cycle, and carefully consider the long-term impacts of our choices.
That's a powerful message. It's not enough to simply replace one energy source with another. We need to fundamentally rethink our relationship with energy, and that's something each of us can contribute to. So as we conclude this deep dive into the world of coal, the biggest question for our listeners, what role will you play in this energy transition? How will you contribute to the development and adoption of cleaner, more sustainable energy solutions?
It's an exciting time to be alive, full of challenges and opportunities. Cole's story shows us that we have the capacity to reshape our world through energy innovation, but it also reminds us to proceed with caution and foresight. The future of energy is ultimately in our hands, and it's up to each of us to shape it wisely.
This podcast is conceived and produced by Energy Intelligence. We make India's best power station. Only power station that is super portable and has uninterrupted power supply for applications like Geo Air Fiber, Mac Mini, and other medical applications. Listeners of this podcast get a 5% discount with code of EnergyPod5 through December 31st.